the situation is in flux. There is likely more government subsidies coming down the road. So we want to make sure that we still have a compelling case to the government, to the media, should there be more aid coming available. But just a quick overview of the numbers as of today. We have tracked 3,222 tours that have canceled. That represents 5,679 days of lost work. In case you're trying to do the math, that's 15 and a half years of lost work in terms of days for tour guides. And in terms of the revenue that's been lost so far, it's about just a shade under $1.7 million. But of course, that is doesn't reflect the full picture, as we've made our case many times in communications to the GANYC membership and to the external world. That's just people who entered information on the GANYC website, on the GANYC registry, which was open to both GANYC and non-GANYC members. But obviously not every tour guide and tour operator in New York participated, and there was no way to track tours that might have gotten booked but didn't actually get booked because of the current crisis. So we tried to do some unscientific projections, and to our best guess, we're thinking that if everything goes worst case scenario, unfortunately, this could be a $30 million hit to tour guides in New York City. So that is why we're pushing so hard to make sure that we're included in any sort of aid packages. Obviously, the latest from DC includes 1099 workers. I know there's a lot of questions about that. We're going to try to answer a few of those tonight. But the game is not over, and we want to make sure that we have enough information going forward so that anybody can see what we're doing and the plight that we are in. So with that, if there are any questions about the canceled tour registry, I'm happy to delve into them now. Otherwise, I think we can probably transition to another topic if nobody has any questions.
Yeah, and
oh, Emma's back. Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, I just wrapped up the canceled tour registry, so you can kind of continue with your presidential remarks.
Sure. Thank you. Sorry, guys. My internet suddenly disappeared. So anyway, these are things that happen. So no, I was just thanking everybody for all of their great work and for everything that they've done. And so I will be, so I will just be talking just a moment about the different things that we'll be discussing during the meeting itself. And it looks like my internet went out again. So if Mike takes over again, then that would be great. Sorry about that.
Emma, we can still hear you.
You can still hear me? Okay,
yeah,
great.
Yeah,
all right,
Emma,
but you cannot see my screen, right?
I think I need to shut off my screen sharing. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, thank you. All right. So you guys should you should be able to, all right. All right, let me just get in there. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. All right. So yes. So what we're going to be doing is basically the my presidential remarks are really to thank everybody, and of course I want to acknowledge the terrible losses that we've had over the past week or so. Of course, Judy Richheimer, Laurel Douglas now, and then William Hamreich, who was they're great GANYC guides. They were great. Really supporters of guiding and of tourism throughout our city. And also wanted to thank all GANYC members for everything you've done in terms of supporting our work and supporting each other's, and to reach out to other members of other organizations, the NFTGA, the WFTGA, IATDG, so many acronyms, so many letters, but really so much hard work from everybody, and it's really been much appreciated. So with that, though, I think we can even get started a little earlier, since I don't want to be taking up too much time from everybody. And to start with, our first presenter actually will
Are they
be,
here?
yeah, are you guys here? Okay, sorry everyone. Our first presenters actually will be Gail and Kate from Forrest Solutions. Okay, and so.
Emma, do you want me to take over?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. And I'll put up their screen in just a moment.
Okay. So our first segment, guest segment, is with two representatives of Forrest Solutions, Gail Bloom and Kate Post. Gail is waving her hand, and Kate, do we have her? Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, they're just not next to each other. Kind of weird. Gail is on, oh no, excuse me, service manager. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You've been with the company for 30 years now. You have placed tour guides in alternative work in the past, as far as I understand. So you're familiar with the tour guide resumes and so forth. And I know in talking with you earlier, we had a great conversation, and you wanted me to emphasize that you have a kind of like a lot of tour guides, your background, or former dancer, and you speak Portuguese and Spanish, Brazilian Portuguese. So you've got, you know, a lot in your background besides having worked in your company for so long. Forrest Solutions, and that's Forrest with 2 R's, I was corrected earlier, is a nationwide staffing and outsourcing company. And I have spoken far too much. I'd like to, you know, I know that Kate, you're the one of the presidents of Forrest Solutions, but as I understand, Gail will be doing the talking, and I'm going to leave it to you. Tell us a little bit more about yourselves and Forrest Solutions, please.
Okay, so yes, I am one of the presidents and one of the owners of Forrest Solutions, and Gail and I have worked together for many years, although we do like to say we both started when we were about 7. Forrest Solutions is a privately owned company. There are 5 partners, and we employ, in the normal world 2 to 3 weeks ago, about 1,000 people nationally. 1,000 to 1,100 people. That's both in outsourcing as well as in our traditional staffing. We are a New York-based company, and so the bulk of our temporary type of work, both short-term and long-term projects, would really be located in the New York City, the metro area, although we do provide some staffing elsewhere. We're a people company. That's what we do for a living, and right now we're trying our hardest to keep people working, being as creative as possible, trying to find alternative ways of people keeping income coming in on a daily and weekly basis. So I'll turn it over to Gail, our resident expert.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you. And also thank you to all of you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. In the best of times, we would actually be talking to you about supplemental income, ways to supplement your tour guide income. But in today's business climate of uncertainty, we're certainly going to have a different conversation. And we're here to discuss ways that you can translate and leverage all of your transferable skills and in that way be able to transition into other jobs that will create alternative revenue streams for you. So asked me a couple of questions, and we're going to start off with addressing the first one. He asked me what areas are hiring right now. And over the past couple of weeks, it's literally like someone flipped a switch. Probably about 2-3 weeks ago, we all felt it. And so the areas that are hiring right now are in essential services. Those are the jobs for doormen, doorwomen, porters, facilities, maintenance people. Obviously, businesses are shut down, but their facilities do need to still keep running. Remote work, people who work in IT, technical support, help desk support, people who work in digital and creative. Their jobs can still be handled remotely. Those are areas that we are experiencing some growth in right now. Data entry, we're hoping to obtain a couple of new contracts for data entry positions. Again, something that could be done remotely. And last but not least, security, licensed security guards, lots of them. We're getting a lot of calls for that as a skill set.
So I just put up Kate and Gail's information. I had a couple of people asking for that again. So sorry, ladies.
That's okay.
Thanks.
Just
Okay.
go online and Forrest Solutions, just reach out to us there.
And also, yeah, I've provided information to John, and including my telephone number, my email address. Certainly look forward to hearing from all of you with questions, submitting resumes. Speaking about resumes, John had asked me to talk about an important topic, how to edit your resume to appeal to other types of opportunities. So I just wanted to start off with explaining how companies read resumes. They do in one of two ways. Either if you submit to the website, usually that website has been programmed with an algorithm, so they're looking for keywords, buzzwords, and if your resume doesn't have those keywords or buzzwords on it, it goes to what I call the cyberspace wood chipper. Never again. It just basically disappears. They don't even consider it. If your resume is read by a human being, that's another story. That person is looking for skills, the length of employment, maybe the companies that you worked at, your other interests, language abilities, anything that would be pertinent to the job that they're recruiting for. So I always recommend to people who are in transition that they should list at the top of a resume, a revised resume, you should list what I call core competencies or core skills. And based on, you want to tailor make that list based on whatever position that you are aiming at. Okay, so obviously if you're looking at an administrative support job, you want to put in that list any kind of calendar management, meeting scheduling, customer service skills, your organizational abilities, all of those transferable skills, but up top where someone can see them right away. And also you're positioning yourself very smartly because the person reading your resume understands that you understand. You speak their language. You took the time to understand the kind of role you're potentially going to interview for. Okay, so John also asked me, how do you prepare for an online interview? I'll start off by saying that there are some common sense tips that I recommend to anyone interviewing in person or interviewing online. Obviously, number one, be on time. No interviewer wants to be kept waiting, especially if they're waiting virtually. They're staring at their screen. Maybe they set up a Zoom interview meeting or a FaceTime with you, Skype, whatever, Google Hangout, whatever software they're using. You want to be punctual. You want to enter the meeting on time. That's number one. Another common tip, number two, research the company. Google research. Takes 2 seconds. Know your audience. Number three, research the interviewer. And that's actually easier to do than you would think. If you can't find information about them on Google, go on LinkedIn. I always research before I meet with a client because you never know what connection you can make by finding out where they went to school, what their interests are. So many different ways to connect with them on a human being level. Now, tips specific to online interviews. I actually really enjoyed this question. Sit in a quiet place. You don't want the dog barking. You don't want children screaming. You don't want the television on in the background, okay? Make sure you have your resume in front of you so you can refer to it. Your background should not be distracting. I have conducted more virtual interviews this week than I think I ever will in my lifetime. I have looked at more people's personal photographs, laundry baskets, that not good, okay? Not ideal. So make sure that your background, it's ICM as bookcases, that's fabulous. Make sure that your background is interesting, but not distracting, okay? You can sit with a blank wall behind you, a blank painted canvas, that's fine too. You don't want to distract from what you're saying. Wear a professional shirt. I read something online the other day that cracked me up. Walmart is absolutely seeing an uptick in tops, but not bottoms. Everybody's wearing drama bottoms, but they're all buying fresh new shirts. You should too. You want to wear a professional looking shirt. Okay. Please make yourself more marketable. Believe it or not, the simplest way is using the wealth of online resources. I personally call YouTube University. You can learn to do anything on YouTube. If you need to brush up your skills, there are any multitude of free tutorials to be found on YouTube. I highly recommend skills like Excel, Outlook, any of the software applications that are used in most positions. Start there, brush up your skills, and also speak to people in your circle who have done jobs in an industry perhaps that you're interested in, and ask them, what do you do on a daily basis? What skills do I need to do that job? And go online, tons of free tutorials. At the end of all of this, John can share all of my contact information. I'm happy to be your point person. Really thrilled to partner with all of you. We're going to get through these times. Happy to be here for you.
Okay. I've got a few more, and some of our guests may have more questions, but thanks so much for that kind of overview of and just general tips. You know, a lot of us have very quickly had to, you know, adapt to this new world we're living in, where it's all remote, and you know, I mean, some of us are, you know, still dealing with the kinks of a Zoom meeting as we're experiencing here, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. It's amazing. How do you? I'm sorry. Can you, for those of us who are not tech savvy, how do you do that screen behind you? What is that?
I want to know the same thing, and who taught her and not me?
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. I have to share. My desk is positioned with a window behind it, and I kept showing glare, and I didn't want to move my computer if at all possible. So on the bottom, and actually you can all look down right now, I was taught by one of my coworkers. On the bottom of your screen, you see share video. To the right of share video, there's an arrow. If you click on that arrow, it gives you the option for a virtual background setting. And there are 6 or 7 of them. Kate, in a meeting last week, said, who is that with a palm tree behind their head? And I said, that's me. I'm making believe I'm in Brazil. Palm tree and a beach. So there are many different settings, but that's how you access them.
I don't know what Gail is talking about. I'm actually in New York, sitting in front of the.
Nicely done, Vaughn.
Okay.
Go.
Can you? I know you've sort of addressed it, but can you talk just about like I mean, I guess maybe you already answered this question, but there's a question here about the next couple of months, like right now. You know, where are you hearing for more work? I mean, can you add to any of your remarks already that you've made?
Yes, actually, Kate, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It's actually finding us, and we're looking at unusual positions that we might not have worked with in the past, but you know, different times, we have to do what we will for our staff to keep them busy, keep them employed. I'll give you an example. We have 96 people that 3 weeks ago we did not have, 96 people out in luxury condominiums and rentals in New York City as lobby staff. Now, obviously, these buildings all have their own staff. However, what they're finding is people aren't coming to work. They're like, oh, well, I've got 6 weeks PTO. I think I'm going to take some time off. And literally, that is what is happening, particularly in New York City. So they have really had to find an alternative manner of finding individuals. One of the things that Gail was referring to earlier, we usually have 100 to 200 people a month out on almost a daily basis doing data entry, and it's data entry for the legal community. Now, interestingly enough, always this has to be done on their equipment in their offices. I would never 3 weeks ago have thought that they would be calling me to say, well, we're going to have your people work from home on their laptops because here's what we figured out from a security perspective, and we're totally comfortable them having what we're going to drop onto their laptops. Okay? That literally could mean work for 50 to 100 people. And all you need to do is be bright, careful, caring, quick on a pad. That's all, on a computer. So the skill sets aren't skill sets that many individuals within your industry wouldn't have already. So it's not as if they have to acquire something new. They just have to be very good with detail.
Okay. One more question. And, while tour guides are a diverse lot, and we come from different backgrounds, but there are a lot of elderly amongst us. I'm probably not speaking about myself, but there is some concern that in the digital market, if you want to call it that there may be age discrimination. Can you address that?
Well, from our perspective, I can only address who we hire. So you're looking at somebody who's you're looking at two women who are part of that age group, let's say that. And so if your skills are there, it really doesn't matter what the age is. I mean, we have people in our office who are over 55 or 60 years old, and let me tell you, they are faster on a laptop than some of the younger people, and they're more accurate probably because they have been accustomed to. We grew up in a world where the quality of your email and the spoken word and written word was really very important. So though that has translated, I don't send out emails until I, read them and check them, and I can do that quickly. So it's not likely that being hired by us, that wouldn't be an issue whatsoever. Can't speak for the rest of the world.
Okay, thanks a lot. I mean, that's good to hear. I mean, because again, I think, that's very relevant to a lot of our audience back there. One more question came up about the kinds of educational backgrounds. And again, we're a diverse lot. We range from, Emma Guest-Gonzalez, PhD, educated there, and I'm sure we have a number of other people with advanced degrees. But, and then we have people with some college or, just a high school background. What can you say about that in this? And I'm talking about the very current job market right now, as opposed to maybe what'll happen once things kind of, normalize a bit.
Well, you want to take that, Gail?
I'll start. It runs the gamut. Really, the jobs that we get run the gamut. High school graduates all the way up through PhDs. It really depends on the job description, the skill set, what the client is specifically looking for. But, hopefully there'll be opportunity for people of all academic backgrounds.
Okay. Finally, I'm just going to read, I got a question here, and let me just read it verbatim from the question and answer field. Are you an outsourced company so that people you place get paid from you, and do you place part-timers where the employees are paid directly from the corporation?
Okay.
So that, I think
We
you got that
never
right?
place, yeah, we never place anybody that's paid directly from the corporation. Anybody that we work with is employed by us, whether they're part-time or full-time, whether they're outsourced or they're on a temporary project. All paid.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. So that's does that ever change? Like if a relationship develops, or like how does or I mean, it's been a while. I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've worked temp, so I'm not familiar with it. But what does? Yeah, go on.
No, sure. I'm sorry. If I do my job right and I place the right person at the right company, yes, that relationship could change, because the client could call and say, we think John is absolutely fantastic. We can't live another day without him, and we want to hire him. At that point, they would want to put John on their payroll. And so, yes, at that point, the relationship could change.
Okay. Okay. I'm just going to give my the question and answer fee. Just one more look here. I think we may have gotten a list of. Let's see.
Well, John, if I may
Okay,
step in a moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Yeah, Emma, you taking over?
Yeah, I was just going to step in a moment because I was reading the questions all together. So, because while you were speaking too, it's a sort of could be maybe a general answer to a general set of questions about what kind of data entry, what kind of computer programming or topics should be studied via so-called YouTube university. And then, if somebody is not very computer literate, should they be studying those really hard right away, or how should they proceed?
Sure. Well, Excel for data entry. Sometimes for the data entry positions that we get in, and the client will require Excel, it's literally the entry. So accuracy, speed of typing, just knowing how to cut and paste or enter data into the cells. You're not creating formulas. You're not doing, very advanced functions. If I can do it, you can do it, and I can. So in terms of what they should study, it's nothing about programming. It's really about the software applications. So as you go through a self-propelled tutorial, even for someone who's never worked in it before, it will start off with very basic functions. And that's all you need to start, that's all you need to really work on. If you're not as computer literate, you can start with the most basic of functions just to find an ease with that.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So I think, let me see. Sorry. There were just a couple of questions about pay rate. I'll let John take those over with
I was
those.
waiting for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Well,
John,
why don't you speak to it? It's a very important question. Like what kind of
I'm
pay
sure.
rate? And I know that it's hard to generalize, but what if you've expected the question? I hope you got a good answer.
Well,
So go ahead. What can you tell us about pay rates?
I will start off by saying that, as we all know, the minimum hourly wage in New York City is $15 an hour. Pay rate really truly depends on the skill set. Temp jobs especially, are very skill driven, because whether you're doing the job virtually, like we're all doing in this day and age, or whether you're physically on their premises, sitting in the chair, once you start, you're paid on an hourly basis, you need to hit the ground running. So I'm not avoiding the question, but the jobs are really very skill driven, and starting at $15 an hour, which is like the most basic of clerical positions, and can run all the way up until, $30, $40, $50 an hour for a professional person in IT or digital creative, etc.
Our average salary, because I happen to work on this regularly, the average wage for our temporary employees is a little over $18 an hour. Now, one of the things we are doing, by the way, right now, but Gail is right, it's very, it's skill driven. One of the things we are doing right now, as clients request staff, particularly staff that they need to work in the city, in either an office environment or in the example I gave before, a residential environment. We are upping the rates. We can pay more, and we're telling the clients this, that people, it's very difficult to get people who necessarily are willing to come into the city, and so we're compensating for that. So right now, porters are making $19 or $20 or $21 an hour, depending on what shift they're doing. So it is a little higher because of the time.
Okay. I think that's all the questions we have time for. But of course, you guys are leaving your contact information, and I believe am I right, all attendees will be sent the contact information. So yeah, our attendees can get in touch with you guys for any more questions, and obviously, pursue, the job search process and so forth. Thank you so much, Kate and Gail, for joining us. That was very, very informative. And,
you're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Yeah, and
please all stay safe and be well.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Please stay safe.
Yeah, we will be sending your information out, so look forward to emails from GANYC members. We really, really appreciate it. And I know Forrest Solutions too, guys. Some of you guys are great. They're at my place of work. There's some people placed by you guys at the One World Observatory, and they're wonderful. So
that's right. We do a lot of work.
Right. We do a lot of work there. Make sure everyone, please contact me directly, Gail Bloom, so we don't flood Kate's inbox. I'm sure she'll thank me.
Yes. So we'll be sure everyone has Gail's information. And thank you again, ladies. That was great. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Of course, I'm sure you may have other things to do.
I have another call, believe it or not, but thank you very much. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you all very much. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're just going to, before we are having our next speaker, who is Bill Caldwell, and Bob Gelber will be moderating that discussion. I had some technical issues, of course, that would happen to the chair of the IT committee. But we are going to be having an industry partner vote tonight. That will be for the Society of Illustrators. Now, you will receive your ballot to vote for them in your email. This will go to all full GANYC members. Will receive their ballot by email. Okay, Mike Morgenthau will be sending that out. And voting will continue for an hour after the meeting. Okay, so you all should be getting an email with your vote. Okay, and then you will be able to vote online via Wild Apricot. Okay, and then you'll have up to an hour after the meeting is over. Okay. All right. So without further ado, our next speaker is going to be Bill Caldwell. And Bill is a certified public accountant. He spoke to GANYC before and a wonderful PDP when things were still normal in New York City.
Yeah.
Quite a few weeks ago.
Back in the day.
Yes. And so I'll let Bob take over because Bob Gelber will be running this. So welcome, Bill. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Bill, thank you. And it's great to see you again. And of course, we have a lot of questions to ask. And we know that you're one of the experts. And one of the first questions I'll just start with is, when can 1099 employees, freelancers, apply for unemployment insurance?
Now, DC, of course, every state has different rules on it. And so eventually every state will come around because the feds have dictated that freelancers and independent contractors are now eligible for unemployment. And that includes even if it is your part-time job or a second job on it as well. So New York has been very progressive on this, and they have already changed the unemployment rules. And so apparently you can begin applying for unemployment right now. Now, everybody's unemployment amount is going to be different depending upon how much earnings that we're talking about. But on top of the New York normal unemployment, which I think is 35 weeks, the feds are going to put $600 a week for the next 4 months on top of that. So let's say you're getting, you know, $200 or $300 a week from the unemployment from the state of New York. Now the feds are going to layer $600 on top of that. So now we're talking $800 or $900 a week for the next 4 months.
Now, is that a separate application process from applying for normal unemployment insurance?
No, it'll all be handled through the states. I guess the feds are reimbursing the state for this amount. But there is not a federal application and a state application. It's all state application.
I see. Now, I'm just curious, can 1099 employees, freelancers apply for other monetary assistance?
Yes, and we'll come back to that for just a second. Let me just append another comment onto the unemployment piece to this. Some of your guides are independent contractors and sole proprietors. They have no kind of entity structure. Some guides have organized and they are LLCs and they have an LLC structure and they're treated exactly the same as the sole proprietors. There are other guides who have formed subchapter S corporations, and those are actually the easiest right now because as an owner, a guide who owns a subchapter S corporation, if they've paid themselves a salary, which they're required to do out of a subchapter S corporation, they can turn around and just lay themselves off. And then that process is even easier than the self-employed or independent contractor process.
All right, because I had a question from one of our members, Frederic Barbier, that she is an independent guide and she's now an S corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And what she says is that New York state law says no unemployment compensation will be paid to self-employed people such as herself unless she dissolves the corporation, which she wants to do. Doesn't want to do, of course.
That surprises me. I haven't seen that. And you got to remember that until 3 days ago or 4 days ago, you know, this wasn't even a possibility. So I don't know whether or not that data is old or new, but let's say that it is the case. She could turn around and just dissolve the corporation without really a lot of fuss and then reincorporate it after the unemployment rundown. If that's what's prohibiting it, I would just go ahead and dissolve the corporation at that point. And odds are no one's going to take your name in the next 35 weeks, and you could just reincorporate at that time.
Okay. I was thinking just in terms of myself, 1099 employees, how can they find out if companies that they've worked for that have laid them off are taking advantage of financial assistance to aid their employees?
Well, I can tell you that there is probably a 100% chance that they are, which means that particularly with under this new CARE Act that just passed last Thursday, that businesses can get an advance or a forgivable loan based, and subcontractors are part of that package. Now, whether or not any of that trickles down to the individual guide may or may not happen. And there's nothing that you could do about that. in order for the loan to be forgivable, the employer or the tour operator has this test he or she has to meet. And that test really involves how many employees did I have last year, employees and tour guides that are converted into full-time equivalents, versus how many do we have in this next 8-week period following the receipt of this money. And if that number is less than the number that it was last year, then there's a problem, and all of that tour operator's advance loan may not be forgivable. So the tour operator might be incentivized during this 8-week period to prepay for some tours that may come in the future. And it probably wouldn't hurt a guide to drop that email to, that if you have trouble meeting this test during the next 8 weeks, that you're open to taking a deposit for tours to be named later.
That sounds like a good idea. A question. I'm sure you're aware it's been almost impossible to get through to the unemployment office. I was lucky to finally get through on a call where I was taken through the automated portion, but then had to be connected to a live operator, which was absolutely impossible. I've been trying now for 3 days. Do you know if there's some kind of time limit? We have a question from one of our members to file for unemployment if it just seems absolutely impossible to get through.
It is, clearly the sooner you file, the sooner your benefits start. But if you wait a week, that is not, that's not a problem. Some people wait a month before they start filing on it. So the urgency is there because you want the money.
Right.
It's not there from a time restriction by the state.
Okay, that's good to know. And do you think that there are tax implications that will occur due to federal or other governmental aid?
Well, I don't think we're done with the aid packages yet. So I think that, Congress has passed now 3 aid packages to do with this coronavirus. And it's a good start, but it's not done yet. Your organization representing the guides and the National, Travel Association have really made significant inroads in getting part-time subcontractors like guides part of this aid package. What we haven't talked about yet is this new CARE bill that came out on Thursday, which enables independent contractors like your guides to apply for a forgivable loan from your local bank, which is backed by the Small Business Administration. And they want the part-time guides to be represented in this, and so they have made it really very easy. And that even though guides don't draw a salary generally, they are allowed to put in, like a representative salary as the owner of this sole proprietorship. And so we're seeing some of those packages for a guide. Might be $20,000, but if they're spending that money for salaries or for their profits that they're foregoing during this next 8-week period, as well as their health insurance, interest on business-related loans, or those types of items, then that $20,000 in this particular case will be forgiven. And they will not have to pay it back, nor will they have to pick it up as income, but they are allowed to pick the expenses up as income. So it is a real benefit. And all the tour guides and sole proprietors in the tourism industry should really be looking hard at these they're called Paycheck Protection Plans, PPPs. And they're extraordinarily beneficial. Now, independent contractors and non-corporations will not be allowed to do the paperwork yet for I believe it is the 10th of April. So that it won't open up for them until the 10th of April. Meanwhile, all of this information is out on the web. The forms are out on the web. The forms are painfully simple. And, you know, of course, we would be happy to assist with anyone who needs, you know, some guidance on putting those together.
That's great. Well, I have a question from a member stating that he exhausted his unemployment insurance in January, and he understands that there's an extension, but New York State will not let him in the website and says just that he's exhausted his benefits. How do you get an answer to a question like that?
Yeah, I think, Bob, he has to take your approach to it and, you know, keep calling and keep calling and keep calling.
Yes.
To get through there. It is my understanding, and this has been done historically in the past several times, where the feds have come in and extended the unemployment benefits for a particular state on this. So this is not unprecedented.
Right.
But of course, their computers are set up, and that's actually just going to necessitate a reprogramming, and nobody's done it yet.
I see.
Bob, I'm
Yes.
I'm gonna jump in for a second. 'Cause
Sure.
there's some questions also that have been waiting in our Q&A section.
Right.
And one that I think will be useful for a lot of people, that if you are, because so many of our guides work in different locations, plus being independent contractors. So one guide asked if you are both a W-2 employee and you're an independent contractor, can you put your 1099 and your W-2 income, you know, if you're collecting on the W-2, can you add the 1099 income with that?
I don't know the answer to that, to tell you the truth. I haven't seen it done yet. I imagine from a computer point of view that would be extraordinarily difficult to do on this, because generally it's one or the other. But if you're reporting your income under both scenarios, it should work. And I realize that the guides, particularly in New York and California, are really mixed as far as W-2 and or 1099, where most of the other country, they're just other states in the union, they're just 1099.
Yeah, because that also, I mean, that sort of dovetails into another question about guys who have set up their own LLCs, that they're sole proprietors. And so they're not paying themselves salaries, but they're paid as independent contractors, and they're paid to the order of the LLC. So
correct.
Would those kind of people file for unemployment,
yes.
even though they have the small business, or should they look for the SBA disaster loan, or can they do both?
They can do both.
They can do both. Okay.
Right. The SBA disaster loan may not be open to them. So this is the new SBA disaster loan, son of SBA disaster loan, which is the Paycheck Protection Plan. And that is open to them. And it's a lot less hassle and a lot less paperwork. And it should be a better fit for guides.
Okay. And so what about if somebody's doing tour guiding as like as a second job, as a 1099, as freelance kind of work? Does for unemployment, do you have to approve a lost job in 2020? So if somebody's like working part-time with a W-2 from one place, but as well, would they qualify for unemployment as a guide?
Yes, they would.
They would.
That
Okay.
if you've got multiple jobs and you lose one of them, that qualifies. So,
so that's
the same
that's
principle
easy.
exists.
I hope everyone heard that. If you have multiple jobs and you lose one of them, you qualify for unemployment for that job. So
correct.
That's very good to know. It's very good to know. And does the government look at your household income when it comes to financial help?
No.
No. Okay.
It's each person stands on their own. Now that's a state-by-state issue, but I've went through the New York questions today, and it didn't look like that was a family income issue.
Okay. Oh, and sorry, just to interject, if people in New York, you may hear all the clapping and the cheers outside. It's
Yes.
7 o'clock, so people are
Ah,
clapping for our healthcare workers.
Yes.
I'm in Jersey. We don't hear that, and I'm in my
Oh,
little
we hear it. We
so-
hear it here.
so a little clapping for all our healthcare workers. All right.
how nice.
Okay. So let me see. I'm trying to go through some of the other questions because there are a lot. Okay. So if you are a new 1099 contractor in 2020, but you don't have a past history of revenue in 2019, but you were getting ready to work during the busy season, can you still get financial unemployment?
Probably not, because you may not have made any money yet. So
Right.
there's no loss. I mean, there, and I understand there is a loss, but it's not financially quantifiable at this
Okay.
point.
Okay. And what about if you're working part-time now? Okay. So some guys have part-time work now that is still continuing, but we're expecting to work through the summer season. You know, we have guys who teach through the end of the semester, and then their June through September is guiding, and that work is not going to come. Would that count for unemployment insurance?
It would count for unemployment, because once again, they have in that particular case, they have two separate careers. And so it's just like two separate jobs. One job has continued up until now, when depending upon, they may even be paid through the summer, but the other job hasn't. So they've lost, in effect, the other job.
Okay.
And in that case, I would say I would recommend filing for unemployment.
All right. So if you've already received your unemployment, say, because some people applied bang right away, and then the CARES Act came through with this bonus, will that go through automatically? Do they have to reapply or do anything?
It should go through automatically.
To go through automatically. Okay, great. And is there a minimum or a maximum to get that extra?
I know the maximum is $600 a week.
Right.
It is for, I can't remember the verbiage, whether it's up to $600 a week or $600 a week. It seemed to me it was $600 a week.
Okay.
Flat on this. But it might be prorated depending upon, but there was no verbiage in there on that.
Right. All right. So, and as you said before, if you're losing a position, if you're losing a job in one place, but you're still working part-time in another, you still apply for that other position. So if you're working part-time, that will not interfere with you collecting unemployment, will it?
Correct. No, that should not interfere.
Okay. All right. And then let me see. I can see Bob too. We're getting bombarded.
No, I think many of the questions are very similar.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see. Okay, so we have somebody who has an LLC, receives W-2s and 1099s.
Once again, yeah, that's basically two. The LLC and the 1099 sole proprietorship are treated exactly the same. So those two would be collapsed into one.
Okay.
And so now we're just talking again about W-2 and non-W-2.
Right. So basically, employment income with the W-2 and self-employment income with the 1099/LLC, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So I would collapse those two numbers together under, your self-employment, and the W-2, of course, stands by itself.
Okay. So this was an interesting question that if you get unemployment insurance or any other income in any particular weeks acts as an offset to the benefit. So if you qualify for $400 a week in the benefits, but you earn $300 that week, so your unemployment benefit for that week will max out at $100. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Now, once again, I'm a CPA and, not an unemployment specialist, but it really has become that way. And I'm going to move, because I noticed the glare is just terrible on the way I was setting. Okay.
Bill, everyone is hanging on your every word, so it could be, anywhere, really.
Okay.
You look good in glare.
Good to know.
Yes, you're fine. You're fine. Let me see. Okay, so what happens about payroll taxes when companies suspend paying their employees? So
as far as the employee is involved, nothing. It doesn't affect the employee at all.
Okay.
The employer can opt, instead of taking one of these payroll protection loans, they can opt to say, well, if I'm carrying people during this time, that I can offset half of what I'm paying them via credits to the employer portion of Social Security taxes.
Okay.
But it doesn't affect the employee at all.
Okay, and so just a simple question. We had a comment from actually our ex-treasurer, who's super crazy smart about all this, and she says, so your best bet really is to use whichever job brings in the most amount of money when you file for unemployment. So your base pay will be based off the average you earned at that job in the previous 12 months. So go for the one that paid you the most.
That sounds like good advice.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. That was Adrian Cooper. All right, simple question. If somebody is filing for unemployment and they're self-employed, and so how many, the answer for the number of employers is 0 or 1 if you're self-employed?
Number of employers would be 1 because it's you.
It's you, right. Okay,
right.
That's what I thought too. Okay, let me see. How are we doing on our timing? Well, we actually need to wrap up because we have our next speakers getting ready. But Bill, I know that you are an incredible font of information.
Well, thank you.
Which is really wonderful. And I believe you'll also be speaking to the NFTGA. Is that, if I'm not mistaken, that's tomorrow?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, all right. So
yes, it is.
That will be, I don't know if they still have room for people to register for that, but I know, and we're members of NFTGA, I'm sure we can get access to that information too, and perhaps the recording of that meeting. Okay, so Bob, anything you'd like to do to wrap up?
No, actually, between the two of us and of course Bill, we've covered everything that I can think of. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Our
you.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. This was great. Be safe. Be well.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our next presenters. And just to, quickly, for all of you who asked questions that were not answered by Bill directly, I think we covered most of it. Bob and I were doing our best to field everything. So our apologies, but hopefully this was a lot of good information. And we're recording this, so you'll also be able to refer to that again. So let me just go quickly to our next presenters. I'll just put up the slide, and then Mike Morgenthau will be taking over. So, where is it? Okay, there we go. So hit it, Mike, you're on.
Okay, well, our next two presenters come from the International Association of Tour Directors and Guides. I hope that many of you have actually joined the IATDG, and maybe you have actually also visited or attended the annual conference or some of their other great educational opportunities. So Yvonne Harden is the director of and founder of IATDG, and also the director of Group Tour Professionals. And he's also the president of CE Educational Travel, which is a tour operator based in Texas. And Karen Yates has been with IATDG since 2018 as the community director, and she basically manages all the daily activities for the association. So welcome, Karen. Welcome, Vaughn.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh, Vaughn's moving around. He went from Brooklyn up to Harlem.
All right, Vaughn.
I'm getting around here.
Okay. Well, thank you guys both for joining us. So we're going to ask a few questions, and then we'll open it up to the attendees if they have any questions as well. So our first question. So with IATDG, you guys are in touch with both tour guides and directors and tour operators. What are you hearing from both of the both segments of the business, from tour directors and guides and from tour operators? What are their biggest concerns, and any projections for how things might potentially bounce back down the road?
Okay. Thanks, Mike. First of all, I just want to say that we really appreciate this opportunity to speak today. And IATDG wants to send out our best to everybody. We know it's a difficult time for everybody, and especially for all of you in the New York area. So to answer your question, there are some differences between the adult and the student operators, and I will try to speak a little bit to what we are hearing. So for the student operators, this was probably the worst possible time for this to hit. They were in the midst of their spring break travel, and they were gearing up for the summer travel. And so since most of the schools are closed now, they have had an enormous number of cancellations, with some schools saying that they are canceling until further notice. So, you know, it's a variety of things. Some of them have rescheduled, but until further notice, we believe, is just language that means we don't know when we'll be able to start scheduling again. So, so this has left the companies to be caught between vendors who want to get paid and the schools and parents who are looking at refunds, as well as, of course, to our tour leaders who are looking for some kind of relief. So it's definitely a tough situation for them. I'll talk a little bit about the outlook for their future for the student tour companies. Really, everyone that we've talked to remains hopeful. You know, obviously, the longer this goes on, the more difficult it's going to be for especially smaller companies to bounce back. Many of them have already laid off staff and are already looking at ways to reduce costs. So, you know, once the virus threat is gone and we start looking at the future, there's a few psychological factors that we've talked about that are at play for when the schools are going to be ready to schedule again. First of all, safety and health. We know that those are high priorities for our parents and our schools, and it may take some time to feel like it's safe for them to send them on trips again. On the positive side, parents are also, parents these days really put a high priority on both experiences and also education for their children, and sometimes even to the exclusion of their own interests. So we believe that once things are safe, that they'll be ready to invest again in those trips.
One quick follow-up question there, Karen. Have you guys heard any anecdotal evidence of tour operators being successful in convincing people or schools to reschedule versus flat out cancel, or is it too early to delve into that?
Vaughn, you want to speak to that? And Vaughn is a student tour company operator, and so he would probably better speak to that.
Sure. Thanks, Karen. Hey, Mike. We've found that, so you got two situations. I think for the most part, you have a lot of groups who are, you know, they're still interested in taking the tour. They've raised the money. They've, you know, done what they need to do to you know, get the tour underway. So a lot of them would like to move the tour to the summer. I mean, if that's possible. The problem is, you know, we don't know when this is going to end and when things are going to free up. But one situation you have is, for example, let's say for example, you have a group of seniors, or, you know, kids that are graduating, or you have some kids on the trip that's been planned that's graduating. You know, those kids are moving the trip or postponing the trip doesn't really work for them, and giving a credit doesn't really work for them. So in those cases, you know, they're not really able to move it, and that can kind of, you know, tear down the whole trip. So it's been kind of a mixed bag. I think, of course, all the tour operators, it's in their best interest to move the tour because, you know, they still get the business essentially. Also, in those cases, they don't necessarily have to deal with, you know, canceling it and trying to get refunds from all the vendors. But if they can't, then that's when that fight begins. And I think that's where most of the tour, especially the student tour operators, that's sort of where they are right now. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Karen, you were about to talk to the adult market, I believe.
Yeah, so for the adult tours, obviously tough timing for them as well. You know, a little bit different, you know, whether they were international or not, larger or smaller companies. But, you know, obviously the piece that's magnified this for a lot of the operators is that this is a worldwide hit. It's not just like their tours were just in Asia and it was only hit in that area. It's been hit everywhere all at once, as you know. And then with border closings, you know, getting tours back from around the world has been getting them, you know, from all over has been very challenging logistically. So it's really been unprecedented. And as you might imagine, they've also had an enormous number of tours canceled. Some of them were scheduled, but there are many companies already in survival mode. They are keeping only essential employees, and everyone, of course, is working from home. I think, the hope is that they're calling a lot of the folks laid off, and if we can get things going again, that they'll be able to rehire, but that's the current. So the outlook is a little bit plagued by fear and a little bit of uncertainty. When many of the tour companies' guests are older travelers, there's going to be a reluctance to travel due to health and also due to finances. So a lot of 401ks have taken a dive. If that comes back quickly, that's going to make a huge difference in the older travel outlook. Now you've got your younger travelers that we believe will make a quicker rebound with their appetite for travel these days. So that will certainly help the industry. For most tour operators, something that compounds all this may not be, everyone knows, is that it's a very delicate financial balance in the timing with setting up and paying vendors and when they get paid by travelers, whether it's schools or individual guests. So some tour operators are rather exposed financially given how the business works. And the smaller operators will be hit harder with this due to the smaller volume of their vendors and possibly fewer cancellation options with the big vendors. So the companies are going to be running on an even tighter budget going forward with things like hiring locally. It's going to be potentially more important to them. But one good news that I would like to throw out to people is that I believe that independent operators may have the upper hand in getting back up and running more quickly. For a lot of guides who have their own businesses, tour companies may take a while to ramp back up and eventually get back to hiring their tour leaders at the similar and normal levels. But those who own your own tours and will be able to begin operations really as soon as travelers are willing to jump back in. So I think there's a real advantage there in terms of timing.
Okay. Well, hopefully from your mouth to God's ears, so to speak. Next up, this is probably more towards Vaughn, but I'm sure Karen, you might be able to answer it as well. As a tour operator, what advice do you have for tour guides and tour directors about what we should be doing during the downturn, and what should we be doing to prepare for the eventual return of the tour business?
Yeah, I'll definitely take that. I would say two things, two overall things. One, increase your skills and also increase your offer. And what I mean by increase your skills, of course, would be, anything that you can do to polish up on your knowledge, whether it's destination knowledge or whether it's a skill on, storytelling or something like that. I definitely would encourage that. I mean, there are programs like, Trip School that help you with storytelling and other, and other pieces, and also again with destination knowledge as well. And as far as increasing your offer, I would say take this opportunity to come up with something unique that you can offer, not just necessarily for a guided tour, but you may be able to offer some sort of a specialty type tour or some sort of a specialty type of course. Maybe it's a cooking course, or maybe it's some sort of something unique and creative like a scavenger hunt or something like that. Anything that you can offer or anything that you can do to kind of increase what you offer customers, be it individual tours that come into the city or, group tours or whatever it may be, kind of create almost a business for yourself. And I always encourage, local guides to join their guide association to learn some of these things, but find out where there's a need and go after that. And, couple that with what you are good at or what you have a passion for. Maybe, it could be a number of things, whether it's food, whether it's sports, whether it's, history or something like that. I definitely think those are two things that you can really do to kind of have yourself prepared for the touring season, or even if it doesn't, or whenever, if it takes a long time, this is something you can still offer people locally on your own without tour companies.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next up, we know that as IATDG, you guys were included in a meeting of tourism and travel industry associations last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, advocating for aid for the travel industry. What can you tell us about what was discussed in that meeting that specifically refers to tour directors and guides? And is this coalition going to continue? And how can guides kind of find out what they're doing and help out?
So to answer your question, Mike, it's a little unfortunate, but I would say not much was discussed about tour directors and tour guides. And, you know, I think that is, that's the reason that we were there to sort of represent the interests of tour directors and tour guides, because the other organizations were not. And I'm not, you know, I'm not saying that to be negative on any other association, but they were there representing their interests. The American Bus Association was there representing the bus companies. The USTOA was there representing the tour, you know, the tour operators. The same with CITA. So, you know, all these organizations were there representing their interests, and we wanted to do the same thing. I think a lot of times, you know, for a long time, tour guides and tour directors have sort of been the, you know, the forgotten piece to this puzzle, but we're a very significant piece, you know, we're very significant pieces to this puzzle, because, you know, we're sort of the front line, the boots on the ground for all of these tours. And, you know, what we wanted to do, Karen and I were on the call to make sure that, you know, when these ideas and, you know, bills and, you know, support, you know, was being introduced to Congress, that we made sure, you know, we wanted to do our best to make sure the tour guides and tour directors were well represented. And, you know, we kind of break the history of tour directors and tour guides not having a voice. So that's essentially what we tried to do, is make sure that everyone there knew, you know, how significant we were, and to please try to get us included in anything that you guys present. And it looks like that happened. So I think that as far as the coalition continuing, I sure hope so. I mean, we certainly will be, you know, at the table for all those meetings, and, you know, do our best to make sure that we keep tour directors and tour guides relevant. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know honestly exactly what we can do, but I think what a lot of guides have done, and also like what GANYC has done, and, you know, continue to come up with these surveys and assist us, give us information, give us ammo so we can present and we can have when we are at these meetings and we have these conversations. So definitely, you know, those are important things for sure.
That's great. And on behalf of GANYC, I just want to say thank you to you guys for being in there and advocating for us. I think one of the outcomes after everything is settled is, I think our industry is going to have to look for a way to get a stronger voice collectively as tour guides and tour directors. But I think that is probably a discussion for another day. I have one more question from my list, and then we have a couple of questions from our attendees. So here in New York, unfortunately, right now, obviously, we're bearing the brunt of the virus, and it's obviously hard to predict what's going to happen moving forward around the rest of the country. Do you think it's going to be harder to sell clients on traveling to New York once travel starts again because of what's happening here right now?
So let's understand. I don't believe so. I mean, once this blows over and you know, things get back to normal, at the end of the day, New York is still New York, and it's probably the most popular, you know, place in the world to visit. And I think I couldn't imagine in any way that New York is not going to get back on its feet. It always has, and I believe that it always will. New York is not going to be overlooked. I think that, you know, when things get back to normal worldwide, things will get back to normal for New York, and that means tourists are going to be coming there more than anywhere else. So I don't think that New York will take a huge hit. I mean, long term. So yeah, the resilience of New York and New Yorkers is unprecedented, and I think that'll prove true after this pandemic is long gone.
That's great to hear, and I think everybody on this call kind of represents that. So we're hoping that is the case. Going to turn it over to a couple of questions from our attendees. There's one question about cancellation insurance, and this relates, I think, specifically to the student market, but do schools generally have cancellation insurance? Do adult travelers have cancellation insurance? We've had a lot of instances where tour operators have prepaid guides for their services and are now requesting full refunds for advance payments. So the question is, if the TOs are getting money from insurance, shouldn't the tour guides get paid as well?
It's a good question. We don't directly sell travel insurance like a lot of the student tour companies do. We offer it, but we offer it in a way where the individuals, and it's really because of our clientele, we offer it in a way where the individuals can get it on their own. But to try to answer that question, I think a good amount of the student tour companies do sell travel insurance. And I think that the vast majority of the adult operators sell travel insurance. I'm not 100% familiar with that covers. I know there are two types. There's a cancel for any reason insurance, and there's a cancel for certain, medical. So I don't know how this would fall, this type of situation, this pandemic or this virus would fall under that, and how companies are being compensated if they are. I would imagine that there's certainly been some pushback from the insurance company just because of the sheer, number of cancellations that they're going to be hit with, similar to, what happened in New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina. Once everyone started to file these claims, the insurance companies start to get really interesting with how they deal with them. I'm not saying that's the case here, but that would be my guess. So I'm saying that to say I think it is. We may want to be a little bit careful to assume that the tour companies are getting funded this money from the insurance companies. So I specifically don't know enough about that process, but I can certainly try to find out for you guys.
Okay, that's great. One other question, and then I think it's time for us to wrap things up. We have a question from someone who I assume is a tour director. It says, I work with an adult tour operator who emailed just today about scheduling an adult tour, their adult tour of England for August 20th of this year, and asked me if he was still on board. Would you say yes to this at this point, or do you think that might be a little too optimistic?
Yes, I would absolutely say yes to it. It may be optimistic, but optimism may be good in this environment. So I think a lot of the tour operators are expecting things to. They may be optimistic, but they're expecting things to get back on track by, July or in the fall. They think they're hoping that things are kind of back going. We don't know if that's the case, but it's certainly a possibility. And if anyone is offering a job, I definitely would say jump on it. And whoever asked that question, if they don't take it, let me know, because I may jump on it. So again, a lot of it is going to depend on the situations with the tour operators and how they're able to sustain and maintain. And we have a talk with. We actually have two talks. We have one next week that we'll be doing, I believe, Monday or Tuesday, and we'll send the information out. Similar to what Bill Caldwell discussed today, we'll have a couple of experts on the CARE Act, or as much expertise as you can have on something that just came out, and hopefully someone from the bank and the local small business associations or small business assistance corporations to talk about, again, the very topic that Bill talked about today. So we're going to have one talk with the tour operators. We'll have one talk with the tour directors and the tour guides to really talk to them about, the CARE Act and the payroll protection plan and all that stuff. So a lot of that's going to depend on, how the tour operators utilize that and how they're able to sustain, for sure.
Great. And for our final question, we'll bounce back to Karen. Sorry, we kind of put you in the corner over there, but just wanted to ask about IATDG in general. Obviously, your big conference is scheduled in November. I think this year it's in San Diego. And of course, you have other educational FAM tours and things like that throughout the year. Are things still proceeding as scheduled? Any updates? What are you guys looking at for your own operations for the next next several months?
Right. Well, as you know, things have been happening pretty quickly, and we really have not changed course right now. We've been pretty busy with all the things that we've been talking about here. We've still had people registering this week, so including tour operators. So there's a lot of optimism still out there, and we really feel like the conference is going to be a great place to talk about all this. You know, as it stands right now, we're hopeful. Vaughn, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what you're saying, I don't think that we have any right now. I mean, if things are the way they are today, absolutely, we'll be canceling the conference. But you know, again, we're optimistic, and we don't imagine that things will be this way in November. So again, even this whole last month we had tour operators registered, even in the midst of all this stuff. So I think that they're going to be really excited and looking to hire people for the next year, because they know that they're going to lose a lot of tour directors. They're going to lose a lot of tour guides because some people decide to do other things and take other jobs. So I think they're going to be excited to find new talent. We're going to have a ton to talk about, and about changes in the industry. And I know we have a lot of plans of talking to guides and tour directors about their careers and things that they can do to enhance those. So yeah, I mean, we don't have any plans, but of course, if things are the way they are now, absolutely. There's no way we put anyone's health or well-being at risk. So we definitely will find an alternative solution.
Great. Well, if I can just make a plug, I hope you guys are able to have the conference. I've been to four of the 5 or 3 of the 4. I've only missed one, and it's really a wonderful event. So I would encourage GANYC members and non-GANYC members alike to certainly look into going out to San Diego this year if the conference actually happens. It's a great chance to network with other guides from around the country and really improve your skills, and you get to interview with tour operators as well. So so hopefully we'll all be having some drinks in San Diego come November together. So I think we are just about out of time. Was there anything, Karen or Vaughn, that you wanted to get to that we didn't get a chance to get to before we move on?
No, the only thing I was going to mention that I've been taking a look at some data coming out from a Harris poll, and it's really interesting. They are talking about when people are going to feel comfortable going back to go to restaurants and their job and so forth. Their job first, restaurants next, things like travel. They did say that cruises are going to be probably the last thing people are going to want to go on. But one of the things I thought was really interesting and positive was they said, and what they are finding from people right now, even already, is that there's going to be a pent-up demand because people are getting cabin fever, and they're already thinking about travel, and they're also going to have what they call revenge spending. So people are going to want to be spending money and going on those trips coming up. So hopefully we have an environment to be able to do that. So thank you again.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
One hopes. I'd love revenge spending on lots and lots of walking tours. That would be perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Karen, Vaughn, thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate it and everything you guys are doing. And we'll be talking to you guys soon down the road. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all so much. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Great. It's great. Thank you. All right. So our next part of the meeting, actually, we have one more item to cover, and that's a wonderful initiative that Mike Morgenthau will be presenting to us. And he's going to be showing it. He's getting his screen ready in just a moment. Okay, and hold on a second. We're just waiting for him to get set up. But while he's getting that ready, I just wanted to thank everybody for being patient and excited and interested. We've got some great questions, and we've got a lot of really good information, and it's still recording, so it's going to be quite a sizable meeting to be able to share with everybody once we're done. So I think Mike is ready now. All right, so go ahead.
Okay, so we heard a little bit about this, especially with Vaughn and Karen just at the end here, but basically we have been hearing anecdotally, and it just kind of makes sense that once the medical part of this crisis subsides and we're all allowed to go outside and do tours again, it's going to take a little time for travel to bounce back. And so for tour business to really get going, we think, and a lot of other industry experts think, that we're going to have to appeal to locals in our area to come out and start taking tours. The good news is, as Karen said, is there might be revenge spending and pent-up demand, especially for all the workers here in New York who are working from home and stuck with their spouses and their kids in their tiny little apartments and want to get out and explore other parts of the city. One of the great things about being a guide here in New York and just living in New York is the inveterate curiosity of locals about their city. So with all that in mind, we decided that we're going to try to launch a campaign to really emphasize this to locals, and we're calling it Tour Your Own City. You can see it on the deck that's up right now. What we've done is, and this is going to be to promote New York City tours to tri-state area people, to local people. So we've actually gone ahead and purchased the URL, touryourown.city.com, and this is going to be the centerpiece of this campaign. And what this is going to do, it's going to be a portal to basically list tours of New York City for anybody who's curious about it in one kind of consolidated place. And therefore, it's not going to be an e-commerce site. We're not selling tours. GANYC's not making any money on this. It's really just a portal to allow kind of one-stop shopping specifically for local New Yorkers to find out about tours that might be going on in various parts of the city. And so we will be launching that. I want to thank Amada Anderson, who's agreed to do a lot of the work on the website itself. We're still working out some of the kinks and what the content is going to be, but basically tours will be searchable by location, by type of tour. We'll also have drop-down menus so people can find tours, and then of course links to where they can book those actual tours. The site is also, we're looking to have some dynamic content on the site as well, maybe a blog or a video blog or a podcast to help drive people to the site. We're still working out the details on that, as well as how people are going to upload their tours. We're looking to make it kind of an automatic system where they can just enter something into their into a form, and then a GANYC administrator would approve the tour, and then it would go live. As part of this, we're also going to conduct an aggressive social media campaign, which Megan Murad, who is a bit of a social media maven, has agreed to head up. We have grabbed the handles for Tour Your Own City on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we'll start pushing information out there as well once things are live. And we'll also encourage everybody to use the hashtag Tour Your Own City. We're hoping to get this up in a couple of weeks. If we're still kind of all under shelter in place, we might use the site as a portal for all the great online content that a lot of the guides out there are creating right now. We're not there yet, but that could be the first step that we take. So that is certainly a possibility as well. We're also going to reach out to the media and to local travel organizations, including NYC and Company, to get support for this initiative once we get it up and running. We probably do have a little bit of time, but we're working on it now so that when things do start to loosen up, we'll be able to hit the ground running, so to speak. If you see that fun little logo in the upper left corner of the screen right now, I want to say thank you to Deborah Blau for designing the logo. It's not the final logo, but it's kind of going along the lines of what we're looking for. This is all coming together very quickly, so we want to kind of show that we've been doing some work on this, and the prototype, at least for the logo, if nothing else. As we start to work on this, we're going to need a lot of help. So would love to have any GANYC members email industryrelations@ganyc.org if you are willing to help. And that is basically our initiative. So I'm going to turn off the little PowerPoint here, and there I am, I'm back up, and happy to see if there are any questions that might be asked. So we have one question here. This will be once people can go out again, or are you thinking of online, Eileen Rourke? Yeah, Eileen, we're, like I said, the main part of this campaign is to encourage people to start locals to take tours once it's safe and healthy for everybody to do so. But if we're able to get this up and running at a time when we're still not allowed to go out and take tours, yeah, we'll certainly veer it towards the online content that's going on up there. And question, will our industry partners be involved in this initiative? The answer to that is yes. Basically, we're still working out all of the particulars. We are planning on making this available to tour operators as well, but only if they become GANYC industry partners. So what we are discussing is having them become GANYC industry partners and then having a vote on their candidacy retroactively at the next monthly meeting, just in the interest of time and space. Obviously, GANYC guides will also have the ability to post their own individual tours, but we feel like in order to drive the traffic and have kind of a rising tide lift all boats, so to speak, it's important that it's not just tours from individual GANYC guides, but tour operators who hire GANYC guides as well. So like I said, we're still working out a lot of the parameters of that, but we think this is an exciting opportunity and something that can really promote GANYC guides and tour guiding throughout the city. And hopefully we can rely on our fellow New Yorkers and New Jerseyites and Connecticutans. I don't know exactly what you call people.
Nutmeggers, nutmeggers.
Nutmeggers, there you go. And maybe even Pennsylvania people too, to come on in and take tours and support local businesses. People are really excited to support small businesses. There's been so much media coverage about how small businesses have taken it on the chin with the COVID shutdowns. So we're hoping to capitalize on that as well. Will there be a mailing list? I'm not quite sure what that question is, but we're going to certainly try to promote this to both as many parts of the tourism industry as we can locally, and also to the public at large. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Is there one last question here, and then I think we'll kind of transition. Is there a vision on extending this to another state or city, Virginia or DC? Great question, Marikar. We're not capitalizing on this idea on our own. We have talked about trying to make the website scalable to use for ease of use for other cities. We haven't quite gotten there yet. I would encourage, other associations to start developing their own plans for something like this, and we'll certainly share our knowledge as we go along. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Emma. And again, if anybody has any specific questions about this or is interested in helping out in any capacity, please shoot an email to me at industryrelations@ganyc.org, and we will, with your help, we can get this up and running and hopefully get tour guides back to work as quickly as is safely possible.
Yeah, and I'm just adding a few of our, other board members who want to be sure they're participating. Let me just unmute people as they come on. And let me see, I think we also have Christina. Oh, I think she came off. Hold on a second. Well, I know we have Kevin. Where is Kevin? Let me see. Sorry, guys, just getting Kevin in the call as well. All right, so there. Okay, so Kevin Lawrence should be coming on in just a moment too. I'm not sure why he's not showing up. But yeah, so this is really an exciting thing to have is our this Tour Your Own City, and the board will be discussing the details and letting everybody know in the next week or so. And I cannot see why Kevin Lawrence is not showing up here right now. But let me just, there we go. Okay, hold on a second. Let's see, we have John, but we have John and Bob. And so any questions for us? I'm opening our Q&A section right now. Oh, actually, to go back to what you were talking about, Mike, Kit asked about the conflict with the Landmarks Conservancy.
We're Tour Your Own City, not Tour Your Own Town, so I can't imagine there would be, but we can certainly look into that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll be checking everything with that. But like I said, this meeting is going to be made available. We're going to have it on the recording will be posted. I think it's going to be very, very large. So we'll just post it on the website so people can go back to it and refer to it as well. And I believe the questions can also be downloaded, but pretty much most of the important questions were all answered by the panelists as they were speaking. Okay. And so Kevin, Lawrence, I've been trying to add you, but for some reason it's not, they're not coming on. I'm going to put you on as just.
There he is.
There he is. Okay, so I'm just gonna unmute him. There we are. So we've got, I think that's Heidi. That's Kevin's little pooch who is right there. I'm trying to add Deb. Let me see if Deb Blau, okay, who made that beautiful, beautiful design. Okay, and Deb, I'm unmuting her now. So we have almost everyone from the board, board showing up right now.
Patrick? Patrick?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find everybody. And Deb, you're still muted, so you have to unmute yourself. So
well, I don't know if anybody can hear me.
Yes, we
yeah,
can.
we can hear you fine. Oh, and there's Deb.
Attendees I don't think can see but yeah, we're here for you guys. So it's wonderful. Just want to give a clap, not just to our rescue workers, but what a wonderful meeting this has been. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Michael, John, Bob, so many.
Yeah, Patrick is here too, Patrick Casey. So Patrick, if you want to say anything, you're live, so you can speak too, or forever hold your peace, as you wish.
I'm your scribe. Of course, I'm silent.
Okay. All right. Well, so let me see. So I'm just looking into, yeah, so we have a couple of people who are just on their phones, so you cannot see them, but you can hear them. Bob, anything you'd like to contribute?
No, just I'm thrilled so many people took part in this tonight.
Yeah, everybody, at a certain point, we had, I think, 185 participants in the meeting.
Wow.
Which I think is a pretty good number. And so really, so thank you to everyone for coming, and thank you for the great questions, the wonderful chat. And it's really nice to get back together, albeit virtually. And it's most likely we're going to be doing this again for our May meeting, because it doesn't look like we'll be all going outdoors and hanging out together anytime soon, which is unfortunate, but that's just our reality right now.
Can I add one quick thing, Emma?
Yeah, of course, Mike.
So I just forgot to mention at the top, in the promotional materials we sent out, we also had Ben Kind from Peak, an online booking company, to schedule to speak. He had a family emergency, unfortunately couldn't make it. He said he will certainly try to hop on with us for our May call if we do have it.
Yeah, and we're going to hopefully have another great batch of panelists. Mike and everybody have been working really hard on contacting people, but also this is a fun way to all get together. Now the board will be meeting on Monday, so we have a lot of things to discuss, but this, I think, was a really good first shot. Apologies, I was the one who had all these technical difficulties at the beginning, and I was trying not to panic because I didn't even know if my camera was on or not. But I think it went well, and we will be sending out all the information, as well as the information about the panelists, and who were great. I was listening and taking out questions, and I'm very glad this is recorded, because then I can follow them again, because I think I missed some answers. I was so busy writing everything down. So if anyone else, Deb, did you have anything to say?
I was just thinking, if the other New Yorkers are in a couple of months are as excited to connect as the 185 members at this meeting, they'll be out in the streets.
Yes, definitely. And New Jerseyans and Nutmeggers. I think we're going to bring the tri-state together once again. Gesundheit, Bob. So, and just a couple things. I spoke to a few guides who aren't particularly technically savvy, and they all send their greetings, especially Joe Spalak. He said he wasn't going to be able to come virtually tonight, but he did want me to make sure to say hi to everybody, and he misses you guys. And so, yeah, so really, also, this is something to keep in mind. Reach out to your fellow guides. Reach out to people who maybe aren't on Facebook. Just a phone call. I had a lovely chat with Cindy, who has a new kitchen this afternoon. So phone calls are actually nice. You know, we spend a lot of time texting, we spend a lot of time messaging, but hearing a human voice, and thanks to Zoom, seeing a friendly face makes a big difference. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone who participated. And I guess we will see you on Zoom in May. And in the meantime, always, if you have questions or you need anything, just email the board@ganyc.org, and we will do our very best to help you out. So thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Be safe, everybody. And as we usually get together afterwards to have a drink, I think everybody should go to their respective parts of their houses and have their little post-meeting cocktail and dinner. Okay, so thank you, guys. I'll see you all in May.
Take care.
All right.
Stay
Good
safe,
night.
clean and sanitary.
All right, wash those hands. Good night.